Have you ever sat down, maybe after a long day or a quiet one, and thought to yourself, is this all there is now? Maybe your days feel like they blend together. Maybe the things that once kept you busy, work, raising a family, caring for others, have slowly faded away, leaving behind something that feels like a pause, and in that stillness, maybe you've started to wonder, what if my best years are already behind me? What if there's nothing left to look forward to but the same old routine? If you've ever had that thought, I want to tell you something right now, something important, something true. It's never too late. Not too late to dream, not too late to grow, not too late to discover something new, and not too late to finally do the thing you've always put off. Because life got in the way, because you were too busy taking care of everyone else, or because you just didn't believe it was possible. But now, here you are. And you're still breathing, still moving, still waking up to new days. And that means something. That means you still can. In this video, we're going to talk about dreams. Not the kind you have while you sleep, but the kind that live quietly in your heart. The ones you used to whisper about when you were younger. The ones you maybe set aside for someday. Well, guess what? Someday is here. And if you've passed 60, 65, or even 80, there are still dreams waiting for you to chase them. And you're never too old to start. Let's begin with something that so many people carry with them for decades but never give themselves permission to do. The dream of creating something. Whether it's painting, writing, sculpting, quilting, woodworking, whatever your hands and imagination can bring into the world. So many of us grew up being told that those things were hobbies, luxuries, or simply not practical. Maybe you had a passion for poetry in your teens, but life nudged you towards something more realistic. Or maybe you always loved doodling but figured art wasn't for you because no one ever called you talented. Here's the truth. You don't need to be gifted to create something beautiful. You just need the desire and the courage to begin. There's a woman I met named Gloria, 73 years old. She spent most of her life raising her 3 kids, working in retail, and keeping her home together after her husband passed. She'd never painted a single picture in her life. But after her granddaughter gave her a watercolor set one Christmas, she decided to try. At first, she was nervous, thought she'd embarrass herself. But little by little, day by day, she started painting flowers, birds, and old photos from memory. 2 years later, her work hangs in the local library. She doesn't do it to be famous. She does it because every brushstroke reminds her that she's still alive, still growing, still her own person. And that's the magic of creating. It reconnects you to yourself. It gives your heart a voice even when no one else is listening. And it's never too late to pick up that pen or brush and start. Now let's talk about something that might sound big, maybe even impossible, but isn't: the dream of adventure. Yes, even now. Adventure doesn't have to mean hiking up a mountain or skydiving from a plane, unless that's what you want to do. Adventure can be as simple as taking a train somewhere you've never been, learning a new language just for fun, or planning that road trip you've talked about for years but never taken. One man I know, Jim, is 68. He was always curious about Italy, but he figured it was too expensive, too late, or too complicated. Then one day, after a routine doctor's appointment gave him a wake-up call about his blood pressure, he thought, what am I waiting for? He booked a ticket, took a basic Italian class online, and spent 2 weeks exploring Rome, Venice, and Florence on his own. He said it was the most alive he'd felt in 20 years. Not because the trip was perfect. His feet ached, he got lost, and once he accidentally ordered cow tongue at dinner, but because he did it anyway. The point is Italy, it's motion. It's deciding that life is still something you can explore. That there are still firsts ahead of you, even if most people think you've already done everything there is to do. You don't need to cross an ocean. You can start by crossing town. Drive to that little antique store you've never visited. Try a new dish at the Thai restaurant down the street. Go to a museum, a dance class, or a bird-watching group. It's not about where you go. It's about giving yourself permission to go. Because the truth is, when you stop exploring, a little part of you goes quiet. But when you step outside your routine, even just a little, you wake something up inside you, something curious, something courageous. Now let's talk about a third dream, one that might surprise you. It's the dream of healing old wounds, mending old relationships, or even finding peace with the ones that may never be fixed. We carry so much with us through the years. Hurtful words, lost connections, regrets about what we did or didn't say. And after a while, those things settle into our bones like weight we forget we're carrying. But it's never too late to let go of that weight. To reach out to someone you haven't spoken to in years, even just to say, "I've been thinking about you." Or to finally forgive someone, not for them, but for yourself. And if that person isn't here anymore, or if reaching out isn't safe or healthy, you can still heal. You can write a letter and never send it. You can say the words out loud in an empty room. You can close your eyes, take a deep breath, and say, "I release this now. I deserve peace." Because you do, you deserve to step into the rest of your life with a heart that isn't held hostage by the past. You deserve peace in your body, your mind, and your soul. And that kind of healing is one of the most beautiful dreams you can ever chase. No matter how much time has passed, no matter what's happened before, you can still choose healing today. Now that we've talked about the power of creating, the thrill of adventure, and the quiet strength of healing, let's continue this journey because there's more ahead. Your story is still unfolding, and you're the one holding the pen. There's something special that happens when you realize you're not done yet. When you stop thinking about life in terms of winding down and start thinking about what's still possible, what's still waiting for you. Because no matter how many years are behind you, there's still so much life ahead and so many dreams that deserve your attention. Let's keep that momentum going. One dream that becomes even more meaningful with age is the dream of connection. Real, meaningful connection. After 60, friendships can take on an entirely new depth, and relationships, old or new, can become the foundation that carries you into some of the most fulfilling years of your life. Too often, people think friendships are something for the young. But you know what? That's just not true. In fact, studies have shown that seniors with strong social bonds tend to live longer, stay healthier, and feel happier. And connection doesn't just mean having someone to chat with. It's about being seen, being heard, and feeling like you belong. Maybe you've lost touch with friends over the years, or maybe you've outlived some of the people who meant the most to you. That grief is real, and so is the loneliness that can follow. But it doesn't mean connection is no longer possible. It might just mean it's time to create something new. There's a woman I knew, Alina. She moved to a new town at 72 to be closer to her son. But once she got there, she quickly realized he was busy with work and grandkids. Most of her days were spent alone in her apartment. She started to feel invisible, until one day she saw a flyer for a knitting group at the local library. She almost didn't go. She told me, "What if they all know each other? What if I feel like the odd one out?" But she went anyway. And by the end of the third week, she wasn't just knitting scarves, she was swapping recipes, going on afternoon walks with her new friends, and even got invited to a Thanksgiving potluck where she brought her famous pecan pie. She found community where she least expected it, by being brave enough to try. So maybe your dream of connection means reaching out to someone from your past, or maybe it means opening your door to someone new. Either way, you're never too old to be surrounded by people who care. And you're certainly never too old to be that person for someone else. Now let's talk about something even more personal, the dream of rediscovery. Because one of the most beautiful things about this stage of life is that it gives you time, not just to do more, but to go deeper. To rediscover parts of yourself that may have gone quiet while you were busy taking care of everyone else. Maybe you used to love gardening, but it's been years since you dug your hands into the soil. Maybe you once played piano, but life got too busy for music. Or maybe you never really had time to ask yourself what you truly enjoyed. What lit you up? What felt like you? Now is your chance. There's something incredibly powerful about rediscovering joy in small things. You might take up morning walks again, not to get anywhere, but just to listen to the birds. You might start journaling not to write a book, but just to hear your own thoughts out loud. You might even sign up for a cooking class or a book club or a photography meetup just to see what sparks something in you. It's not about reinventing yourself. It's about returning to yourself, the you that got buried under responsibility, routine, and years of putting others first. I knew a man, David, who worked construction his whole life. Tough, quiet, always on the move. After retirement, he felt completely lost. His wife encouraged him to try a pottery class at the senior center. At first, he laughed me. Clay, no thanks, but she kept nudging. And wouldn't you know, after a few weeks, he was hooked. Turns out he had a steady hand and a natural eye for design. He started making mugs for his kids, bowls for the neighbors, and even sold a few pieces at the community fair. He told me I thought my hands were done building, but they just needed a new kind of work. That's the beauty of rediscovery. Sometimes the thing you thought was long gone is still in you, just waiting to be noticed again. And while we're on the subject of rediscovery, let's not forget the dream of making a difference. At this point in life, you've gained wisdom, experience, and insight that no classroom can teach. And one of the most meaningful things you can do is share that with someone else. Making a difference doesn't mean starting a big foundation or changing the world overnight. It might look like mentoring a young person who needs guidance, volunteering once a week at a local school or food bank, helping out at a church program or hospital, or simply offering your presence and patience to someone who's struggling. There's a gentleman named Harold who volunteers at a high school reading program. He's 82. The kids call him Grandpa H. Every Tuesday morning. He listens to fourth graders stumble through books and cheers them on when they finish a chapter. He told me I don't have much energy left, but I've got ears. And these kids, they just want someone to listen. That's the thing, sometimes just being there is enough. Your time, your care, your attention, it's more valuable than gold. And when you use it to lift someone else, something amazing happens. You feel lifted too. Because when you focus on what you can give, not what you've lost, you remember your life still has deep purpose. And there's no expiration date on purpose. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't need a fancy degree or a perfect past. You just need a heart that's willing. A spirit that still wants to give. And when you offer that, even in small ways, you begin to see that your days can still shine with meaning. As we keep going, just remember these dreams we're talking about, they're not someday things anymore. They're today things, not all at once, not perfectly. But little by little, moment by moment, you can start to live into them. One conversation, one walk, one creative spark at a time. You're not starting over. You're continuing with more wisdom, more freedom, and more choice than ever before. One of the most surprising things about life after 60 is just how much room there is to grow, not just outwardly through experiences, but inwardly too. And that brings us to one of the most powerful dreams of all. The dream of becoming fully, unapologetically yourself. That might sound simple, but think about it. For so many years, you may have been what others needed you to be. A parent, a provider, a spouse, a caretaker, a boss, a neighbor. You shaped yourself around responsibilities, expectations, and sometimes even silence. You may have hidden parts of yourself that felt too different, too fragile, or simply not practical at the time. But now you have the freedom to finally ask, who am I really? This dream isn't about changing who you are. It's about returning to who you've always been underneath the layers. Maybe it's finally speaking your mind in conversations where you used to stay quiet. Maybe it's dressing how you want, laughing louder, or letting go of trying to impress people who were never really watching. Maybe it's saying yes to things that light you up and no to things that drain you. This dream is about self-acceptance, self-expression, and ultimately self-love. There's a woman named Marion I met at a community event last year. She was 79 and radiant, not because of how she looked, but because of how she glowed. She wore big, colorful earrings, purple sneakers, and a scarf with sparkles on it. When I told her she looked amazing, she said, "Thanks, honey." I dress for my soul, not for the rules. She told me that she'd spent most of her life trying to fit in, to be polite, to be quiet, to be what others expected. But in her 70s, after her husband passed and her kids were grown, she thought, what if I finally let myself shine the way I want to? So she did. She started writing poetry. She joined a local improv group. She even dyed a streak of her hair pink because it made her smile. Marion isn't trying to go back in time. She's embracing the richness of her own identity right now. And you can do the same. No one gets to tell you what's too late, what's silly, or what's age-appropriate. You decide how your story unfolds. And if you've never given yourself that permission before, this is your moment. This dream of being yourself is the kind that changes everything else. Because once you start living in alignment with who you really are, everything feels a little lighter, a little freer, a little more joyful. And that joy is contagious. So whether you're chasing creativity, adventure, healing, connection, rediscovery, or full self-expression, every dream we've talked about leads you toward the same thing. A life that's truly yours. And here's the truth that I want you to carry with you today. You don't have to earn the right to dream. You already have it. Just by being alive, by waking up this morning, by being willing to imagine something more, you've already begun. Don't let the calendar dictate what's possible. Don't let someone else's story define your own. And please don't ever believe the lie that your time has passed, because it hasn't. It's right here, in this breath, in this day, in this choice. You can begin again at 60, you can blossom at 70, you can transform at 80, and you can surprise the world and yourself at any age. You are not just coasting, you are still creating. If something in this message spoke to your heart today, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's one dream you've been carrying quietly? What's something you'd love to do, try, or feel, even now, even if it feels a little out of reach? Your story might be the encouragement someone else needs. And if you're willing to share it, this space can become more than just a video. It can become a community of people reminding each other that life doesn't stop when you hit a certain number. Sometimes it just gets better. If this video encouraged you, inspired you, or gave you even a spark of hope, please give it a thumbs up. That simple gesture helps this message reach more people, people who might need to hear exactly what you heard today. And if you'd like more videos just like this, about living boldly, aging with grace, and embracing life at every stage, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell. We're building a space here where every wrinkle tells a story and every story deserves to be told. You don't have to chase every dream at once. Just start with one step, one smile, one decision to say, I still can, because you can. Here's to the dreams you've yet to chase, to the joy you've yet to feel, to the courage you've yet to uncover. And most of all, here's to living your best life at any age. You're not done, you're just getting started.